Hello, everyone. I'm so glad to meet and greet everyone at our cybersecurity meetup. Okay, let's introduce our main speakers. I do want to introduce Cynthia, lady first, Dr. Cynthia Marcelo, and then we'll introduce Wayne, who is our speaker tonight. And then I will be more than happy to have Jack to join the discussion. And thank
All
you,
right.
Brian, for assisting us. So, Dr. Cynthia.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much, Julia. I'm Dr. Cynthia Marcello. If you do hear thunder in the background, I apologize. We're getting a big storm here in Ocala, Florida. But I am actually Open Hub's curriculum director. I am a professor of computer science and data science. I've worked in the field of IT for over 30 years, and I am a data-driven diva. I love data, and I look forward to talking with you all about how data is intersected with the field of cybersecurity. Nice to meet you all.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right.
Wayne, are you ready to introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Wayne Bianchetta. I am a cybersecurity professional, and I've been practicing and focusing more on penetration testing as of recently.
Sounds very sexy, right? Okay, so
We have an atmosphere which competes with our powers right now against me for discrimination.
Andrew, it's a disaster. Yes. Okay, there are people with disabilities. We understand. It's not Zoom bombarding, but it's annoying, right?
Yes.
Okay. So let's introduce two more TAs here. I mean, Bryant and Jack, teaching assistants or instructors, shall I say, this is team. This is Open Hub's team. And once again, I'm Yulia. My name is Yulia, and I'm the Open Hub founder, and quite a lot of here of those who attend, quite a lot of students. I'm glad to see experts of matter. I'm glad to see Vince. Please make sure to use chat, say hello, say some few words. What are you up to? What are you doing? What you're interested to learn? And where are you from? Where are you coming from? Yes, location matter. Make sense? Chat is for networking. Our experts of matter to talk. Saying that, Dr. Cynthia is good.
I am ready. Yes.
All right.
I also just remembered, I forgot to mention that I also am a cybersecurity professor, and I recently wrote an entire doctoral program in cybersecurity, one of the few, the first doctoral programs in cyber. So, what can I say? I forgot some things. So what I want to do tonight is I want to introduce you to the topic of cybersecurity, and I'm also going to talk about threat intelligence and mention one tool that I highly recommend you become familiar with. We won't have time to go through all of those things as far as the tool goes, but you'll have the link and you'll be able to utilize that. So I'm going to go ahead and just quickly share a PowerPoint that I created that just gives us some focal points so that we can focus on the content and then, of course, move on to the next speaker. Let me go ahead and just share this with you. All right. Okay, and again, I apologize if you hear thunder. It's not fireworks, it's just thunder. So cybersecurity is relevant, but what is it? Cybersecurity is a fascinating practice. And one of the things that you will find in the field of computer science is that there's overlap between different areas of computer science. So cybersecurity is part of computer science in that it involves IT professionals, systems professionals, networking professionals, programmers, and everything around those areas. So cybersecurity, in essence, is a practice used in IT, used by IT professionals to protect the systems, networks, and programs from digital attacks. So you can kind of see how all of these things would be tied together. So what do we know about cyber attacks? Why do we need to protect the organization from cyber attacks? Well, the cyber attacker is typically, their goal is to gain access, make changes to or destroy sensitive information, extort money from users using ransomware and other types of techniques or behaviors that they engage in. And then of course, the big one is interrupting normal business processes. So that's a very simple way of looking at cyber attacks. So cybersecurity is really designed to mitigate and get around that issue. Now, I know Wayne will be talking about pen testing in a minute, but I want to talk a little bit about threat intelligence because Open Hub has a lot of curriculum that they offer. One is, data science, IT support, networking, all of the different areas, all the different courses that Open Hub offers ties into the idea of what is threat intelligence and why is it relevant? Well, every industry leader in computer science and IT has the ability to bring threat intelligence to the forefront. So what is it? Well, threat intelligence is basically evidence-based knowledge, and this is the definition from Gartner, by the way. Evidence-based knowledge, including context, mechanisms, indicators, implications, and action-oriented advice about existing or emerging menace or hazard to assets. That's a mouthful, right? But that intelligence can be gathered by any IT professional in the workplace, whether you're a networking professional, you're an IT support professional, database administrator, what have you. So that's why cybersecurity is so relevant to the field of IT in general. So this intelligence can be used to inform decisions regarding the subject's response to that menace or hazard. And the subject would be any organization, any employer that wants to protect their precious assets, right? So data assets are usually what is likely to be compromised, but there's also hardware that can be involved as well. So you can understand that it is very relevant and very important. Now, cybersecurity workforce has problems. And the reason that, cybersecurity is a very important field to get into and learn about is that those challenges have an impact on the ability to mitigate the problem or the nefarious actors. So there's an increase in persistence of devious threat actors, people that want to cause harm or inject certain types of threats into the environment, what have you. There's also a massive amount of data that transfers all over the world because of the nature of our global economy. We've got data transmitting everywhere. So data is ubiquitous, data is very valuable. So given the value, it basically makes perfect sense why nefarious actors would want to attack it or threaten the data that we rely on to conduct business in the global economy. So that dearth of data means that sometimes information will be perceived as a false alarm, or we might see it as real and it's a red flag, but we're mistaken and the real threats are getting past us. So that's why cybersecurity trained staff are really, really essential, because the more people we have, the easier it is to handle that attack surface. So what causes some of the problems that we are looking at in cybersecurity as a workforce? Well, we have unconnected security systems. We've got a shortage of skilled professionals, and the attack surfaces are larger. So those are the top issues that we're plagued with on a regular basis. Now, I mentioned data a couple times, and of course, I have a thing for data. I love data, but data science and any data skills that are utilized in IT are also relevant to cybersecurity. Threat intelligence is rooted in data and therefore provides context about who's attacking, what their motivation and capabilities are, and what the indicators of compromise in the systems you need to look for. So you can see that data is very important. It's needed throughout the entire process of making sure that we are able to harden our environment and protect it. So this data provides insight to the extent of the issue, and it makes you informed, allows you to make informed decisions about your security. This is where data science and machine learning can be applied to the cybersecurity domain, and having those skills are essential. So one of the frameworks that I wanted to just mention, and I'm going to share this link with you in a second in the chat. Let me just bring up Let me grab it. You know what I'm going to do? Let me jump back. I apologize. What can I say? My mouse, I have a trackball mouse and I pressed the wrong button. I'll share the link in a second. I don't want to distract people. So there's many frameworks out there to protect us, right? A framework is basically a model or a set of tools or approaches that IT professionals used. So one of them is called MITRE ATT&CK, and this is basically a globally accessible knowledge base of all of the adversary tactics and techniques based on real world observations. So think of it as a massive database where all of the cyber professionals all over the world contribute to that knowledge base. That's threat intelligence. So it's intelligence about threats. That's what threat intelligence is. So this knowledge base has the ability to be utilized in the development of threat models and methodologies in many different sectors, whether it's private, government, and of course the product and service community that cybersecurity professionals use. Now, what's nice about the MITRE Corporation, and this is one of the leading tools out there, you can actually rely on them. They're kind of like an open source ideology. All the professionals that contribute, their goal is to solve problems and to make the world safer. So it's a community effort, very much like Open Hub is a community, right? So this is where a collective of individuals are sharing their knowledge as it happens. One of the things we need to remember is that cybersecurity issues are dynamic. We could be experiencing new threats as we are speaking right now. And by sending that information forward and sharing that knowledge, we're able to then protect other people and other organizations. The beauty of it is this attack framework is open and available to any person or organization for use at no charge, okay? And I will share the link shortly. So why is IT support relevant? I've had a lot of students ask me this. Well, IT support, don't they fix things? Don't they fix hardware and such? Don't they install software? Well, sure they do. However, they are their first line of defense in documenting things that are strange. You see something on the network. Maybe users are reporting something odd on the network, right? They're the ones that will get those first phone calls. So they're the first line of defense, and they can document those incidents, track them over time, and establish a pattern of behavior in a networked environment. So having IT support skills is essential, as well as the others that I mentioned: database, data science, computer science. So the whole idea of if you see something, say something, that's very important. And that's where documentation is going to be essential. All right, so let me stop sharing. And I am going to grab a link for you. Now, the link I'm about to share with you involves, there's actually two links. So I'm going to share the first one. This involves data sources that are commonly used in the field of IT for the purposes of cybersecurity. Okay. Now, some of you are professionals in the field, and or you may have had some classes where you learned about some of those data sources. So you'll recognize a few, I'm sure. So one of the examples is Active Directory, right? We all have, if we're network professionals, we know that Active Directory is a database. Well, that's a data source. And MITRE has actually documented it as a data source. And then they have basically intersected that data source and known threats to Active Directory. Now, where do they do that? In the second link I posted, they actually provide an enterprise level matrix of tactics and techniques that are used. So let me give one example, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again because why not? We have time, and let me quickly do that. All right, so here's an example of the enterprise matrix. Now, a lot of these terms you may not have heard of, and that's okay. I'm going to focus on resource development. I'm going to pick on that. All right. These are all different areas of cybersecurity, right? So I'm going to focus on resource development. Okay. Now, what is this? Well, resource development is broken down into different areas. Okay. So let's talk about one area that you might be familiar with: the establishment of accounts. So we log into a system, we have to have a login, a user, password, username and password, right? So in the establishment of accounts on a network, let's say at school or at work, you're given an account. Well, here are some techniques that adversaries may try to use in the process of establishing accounts. So an adversary may create and cultivate accounts with services that can be used during targeting. So how does that happen? Well, maybe they create a persona and that looks believable, and the person that's giving them access to that network thinks this is a bona fide user. So they actually allow them to come in. And what winds up happening is then once they're in, they have a higher level of access because they've been given an account. So this problem could occur in social media. A lot of you may have heard about Facebook account cloning, where they take your account and they make it look like it's really you, and then your friends, basically think you're trying to reach out to them, or you start communicating with them and they don't realize that, oh, I'm sharing information with someone who's not who I think it is, right? So this is one that I think all of you can grasp. The persona may actually be related to Facebook or LinkedIn, Twitter, Google, Docker Hub, all of those. So a technique that is often used is playing the role that I am a real person or I am that person. And so these are techniques. So what MITRE has actually done is they have come up with examples, ways of mitigating, detecting, and references that can be used. Now, how cool is that? So this is a matrix, very complex, but I would encourage you to bookmark this and study it. And if you do take cybersecurity courses, I highly recommend that you have this bookmark in your toolbox when you take those courses, because this will start to make more sense. And maybe one day down the road, we'll have some courses on this, because this is a valuable resource. Okay, Yulia, I think that's good. Yes?
Yes.
Wonderful, wonderful. I'm going to stop sharing.
Yes, thank you. And you are putting the link into the chat.
Yes, both links are in there. Let me up. I think I posted it to a wrong person. I apologize. Again, I have a mouse that's out of control. So there's the second link.
Yes.
Sorry about that. What can I say? Sometimes the mouse and me. Let me get the first link, which is the data source link for you. Okay. There we go, folks. I'm so sorry about that. So the second one is the data sources. The first one is the enterprise. Excellent.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Cynthia. Oh, any questions? Shall we take 5 minutes for questions, or shall we switch to Wayne?
I'm fine, or whatever you want to do, I'm fine with either.
Was it too much? Was it overwhelming? We know there's a very diverse crowd here. How relevant was it for you? Everything what Dr. Cynthia shared.
And don't be afraid to ask questions, because there is no silly questions. Ask it in the way you understand. I encourage that.
I believe we kind of experienced this as user with all these Zoom registrations and Zoom bombarding.
Yes, that's a great example.
Okay. Yeah. So saying that, no questions, heads up, questions. So Hector, thank you for thumbs up. Are we good? Thank you, Brian, Janine, Ivan, Hussein. I'm glad to see Condense Ferguson. I see some familiar faces. I'm so blessed to have you. Chi Tao, are you able to hear us? Yes, perfect. You were able to figure out your sound notifications. Can you put in the chat, please? Where are you from? Where are you located? Is it okay? We are very curious. Okay. Wayne, how's it going?
Good.
Okay, we have expert of matter who specialized on the website vulnerabilities, right? And I'm so glad to see Wayne in person. It was a pleasure to know he's also local, hyper local, I shall say. And now he got a job with one of our major banks, Hudson Valley banks,
Yes.
right? As IT support. Maybe we can talk about it later. Maybe we can have some internship opportunities. You see? That's why networking is worth it. Hey, put more about yourself in the chat, okay?
All right.
Okay, Wayne, Before you go, I really want to share my screen first. Because, oops, everyone sees the meetup. Okay, let's make sure I'm logging out. So this is Open Hub website. You can find more about our meetups. You can find more about the Tech Academy here. The thing here is about what's going on right now is a meetup. And I just wanted to make sure you see everything what's going on. So Cybersecurity and you see the calendar on the right. Cybersecurity and You, if you click on it, you see actually the links to Dr. Cynthia Marcella and to Wayne. So you can learn about them a little bit. And if you want to have a link, I will put this link in the chat. And here is Dr. Wayne. And go ahead, Wayne.
All right.
Share.
So I just want to start out with just asking the simple question of how many people think they're secure out there in a virtualized world?
No way. Even if you think you are.
So cybersecurity itself can seem like a very overwhelming topic because it spans across basically everything. And what I really wanted to try and break down
Okay.
was just trying to emphasize the importance of multi-factor authentication. That's something that is very much needed because just a simple username and password is less secure now than it's ever been. And basically, there's all different types of multi-factor authentication. The most secure is a hardware security key. I actually have one right here that I use. This you just plug in, you touch, and it authenticates you. It's that multi-factor.
Are you sharing the screen?
Oh, I'm not. I'm sorry.
Okay.
So right here, this is a UB key. It's a hardware security key.
On the right, presentation CyberSec, or the small screen at the bottom.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. And can you make it bigger, please? You can select what to share. For those students who cannot see well, you can view option and just zoom in. Okay. Any chance you
I
can
think
make
he
it
was
bigger?
just sharing his screen or sharing his the device in his hand.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
It's just a hardware security key.
Yep.
This is good.
It's the most secure form of multi-factor authentication. Then you can use a authenticator app. And I believe the least secure of the multi-factor right now is a text message, just because there are ways around that if you really know what you're doing. And basically how I like to sum it up is there's always a way around everything. It depends on just how much time somebody wants to invest in trying to get to the target. They're always able to do that. I wanted to also break down, there's the red team side and the blue team side of cybersecurity. So the red team side focuses on the offensive, while the blue team is the defensive. Now, a lot of jobs mainly focus on the defensive side, but as time is progressing, companies, organizations are starting to realize that red team operations is something that's needed and necessary because they have to simulate an attack environment. So the likelihood of a compromise is greatly reduced.
Quick question. Did you mean to share the route at Kali?
Yes, Yes, this is
Okay.
just my attack box that I'm working on right now. I just spun it up before we started here.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, I'm gonna go through and just sum up what I've been working on with just attacking this box. So right here, I was basically enumerating. So I would see that this is the IP address that's on my network. And this is spun up a different machine over here. So this is just basically a more or less an easy machine to break into. But what I did was I scanned the open ports on that. So as we can see from this, it's just these are the ports that are open. And I do apologize. I'm probably going to run through this much quicker. And I know everybody is at different skill levels as well. So I don't want to lose half of the crowd with just going through a few commands here. So if you have any questions, please ask, because I don't want to just run right through this and you guys, I've just lost you from the beginning. But basically, as I keep going here, there's these ports that are open on this. What I can do is I can try to start looking for exploits for these ports that are open.
You're
And
kind of getting from the back to the website from the back end, right? And trying to see if it's
Yeah.
available.
May I ask a question, Julia?
sure,
Well, yeah, so okay, so we see that you're on the command line, and what are you trying to achieve? Like getting the pings of what, like, particular threats might be out there and trying to make their way into the server. Like let's discuss some of the meaning of the, what the logs are showing you here on the command line for what you've inputted on the server. So what's the information related to the server?
the information is basically I'm the attacker. I'm trying to break in to the system.
Oh, you're pen testing here.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
So by trying to break in, it's the only real way of seeing how secure your environment is you have to basically try to break into it.
Are you breaking into a specific website or your environment?
There's just my environment here. I just have a virtual machine just spun up and just something pretty basic and simple.
Yeah, it's like
Okay.
a demo, prior to putting the framework in. And it looks like a really good framework. How did you pick it?
So this framework itself, this is Kali Linux. It's the most popular distro out there when it involving pen testing. It's used by many professionals throughout the field, and it's been around for well over a decade at this point.
But it's like an insider tool, right?
You can go just download it right off their website and go spin it up in, a matter of a few minutes. If you
Open
have the
source?
knowledge. Yes, it's all open source.
Cool.
Do you want to
So
show something else? I like the cow and I like the background of your website. It looks fancy.
I
but
love the
I don't
cow.
know- Yeah, but I don't know what specific on the background is useful or executed.
so there's many tools inside Kali. I mean, I can just go through a brief summary.
Okay.
But what about the use cases too? Just kind of like for the purposes of not having the visuals,
I
So
see some cool ones: vulnerability analysis, information gathering, web
Amazing.
application analysis, password attack, wireless attack,
Could we
forensic.
do a few examples? That would be cool.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just focusing on this right here
Okay.
and just mainly working on off of the command line. But there are many tools, and there's many more actually you can get right off of GitHub.
Mm-hmm.
And what I like to do is really focus on the information gathering aspect of it, because if you're able to gather information regarding what are the possibilities, what are the ways into a system, you have a much higher chance of breaking into that. If each port you can go through and you could test exploits against that system, there could be another way in that you maybe first time looking at it you didn't think of. And that's really what intrigues me about it, and it just keeps me wanting to learn more and more about it because it's never ending. And each time there is another way, another basically it's a cat and mouse game. Every time there's a security patch, which they happen often, all the time, they're blocking possibly another exploit, and there's someone else that figures out another way around that, and it's back and forth it goes.
Looks like a cool tool to use. And I'm always wondering, when you have such a complex challenge, how do you know what tool to choose or where to start? At what layer? Because those students who did attend Tech Foundation 3, you learned about OSI model or TCP IP model. So you see how it's applicable. Where to challenge?
There's a lot of different ways, and basically I was doing a little digging as well. And so this is just me just kind of going around and seeing what I can do, what I can find just from HudsonValleyConcode.com. And I was able to get to the cPanel login. From here, finding a username and then a password that, that would be the actual act of getting past breaking in. But everything leading up to this point, just enumerating the host, seeing what URLs you can find on a particular website. That's all stuff that there's all tools out there that you can use, and there's many tools as well. All and they're basically everything is right in this operating system itself. So I just wanted to give kind of brief summary overview of it. I know it can be overwhelming. I've probably lost maybe some people already, and I just wanted to really emphasize that it's easier than what you think to get past a certain point in a system, just
To break
because,
in?
yes, it's a lot easier than
Mhm.
what most people think it is.
Absolutely true. Thank you, Wayne. It looks really cool hacking kind of thing. And I
Yeah.
know there is a job out there called the professional hackers. Those are testing the vulnerability and such. Okay, let's okay, Wayne, first of all, you were asked if you have a LinkedIn. Feel free to share your LinkedIn and
Sure.
feel free to network with other people, because maybe you want to schedule another one-on-one or just hang out together to do some real hacking issues. I
Oh,
remember
most.
the founder of Gremlin giving a presentation, and the company Gremlin exists to test vulnerability for all kind of cybersecurity. So Gremlin was actually chosen by Google,
Oh,
for
wow.
example. Yeah, there are many interesting tools out there. It's good to have white hat hackers, right? Okay, thank you, Wayne, for sharing your link, LinkedIn link. And let us see from the audience. I believe it was quite intimidating for many. So how many of you do know what's multi-factor authentication? Anyone want to jump in? Sabrine, Dev, no? Jack, Brian, whoever wants to jump in and just say if you.
I'll jump in if nobody else wants to.
Yes, please.
Yeah?
Yes.
Or you want me to wait?
I don't see hands, so please.
I don't see hands, no. All right. Well, MFA is basically, one example is you try to log into a website and they send you a code and you have to authenticate using that code. Maybe it goes to your cell phone and then they realize that it is you because they're assuming that a nefarious actor does not have your device. Or they may send you an authentication with a biometric fingerprint. Again, they're assuming that nobody has your finger. So MFA is the next level up from just the classic, authentication with username and password. And then there's also OTP, which is another one.
So there is a good question, actually. MFA, multi-factor authentication, which is very common, very popular, and quite secured one. And we see the question from Renita.
Yes, I do. So you're saying if multi-factor texting isn't recommended and I don't know about the key, what else? Well, when you say multi-factor texting, you're saying when they communicate with you via text for the purposes of MFA? Is that what you're meaning? The Authenticator app, yeah, I was going to say that's another way of doing it. It's not the text that's the issue, it's the identification that is in fact you that are doing the authenticating. So let's say you're trying to log into a website and they send it an MFA to your cell phone. So what they're trying to do is triangulate between the behavior of logging into website and the phone. Is this in fact you? And again, the assumption is that a nefarious actor does not have your phone. Now, God
Thank
forbid
you.
you're
Yeah.
kidnapped.
And
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that, that some of that is the user choice, like whatever app you use as a quote
Right.
authenticator. And also there are various digital ways to get you to multi-factor authenticate. And it can be hardware, it can be, some kind of near field communication, like a card, that you swipe on the door. And just don't think of it just as software and online, because that is one big aspect of it and very important. But there's many different ways of getting authenticated, and they're very well used in business today. That's it.
Oh,
Thank
absolutely.
you.
I agree, Judith. I use biometrics. I use my finger to log into my laptops when I'm traveling. Yeah.
My preference is my eyeball.
Yeah.
And thank you, Chi, for putting this together as an easy formula to follow.
For a lot of users, there is a frustration level that's associated with all of this security because of the fact that your phone may be out of commission and therefore you won't be able to log in, or you may be somehow disconnected from your phone and you're just, you can't log in. And that invites either additional ways of authenticating yourself, which can also lead to more security problems, or you just throw the whole thing out the window and just say, do whatever you have to do. It's just frustrating for some people to have to go through multiple levels of authentication. But for the vendor or for whoever is using the security, it's a necessity for success in the business realm. So it's just something that people have to just grow into and learn to how to properly authenticate this, basically protect themselves in that light rather than just protecting the business or the office.
I totally agree. And there's a lot of laws around that as well that have to do with, let's say, healthcare information or various private data that is very important and can't and should not be accessed by anybody but the user. And that can get a little confusing because not every agency does, has a particular regulation or policy across the board to follow. But I'm hoping that that'll happen in the future.
Thank you, Judy, for your explanation. Thank you, Vince, for stepping up. Thank you, Jack, for adding. Thank you, Chi Tao, for adding on. Any more questions? How safe are you in general? At what level
Dude.
can you be hacked? Hector, it was you to add something?
No,
Okay. Somebody did want to add on.
I have a question, Julia.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to ask the experts on how, how long does it take to for you guys? I mean, how long did it take for you guys to learn what you know, or is it a process where you have to learn every day?
This is pretty much the
I'll weigh in
attitude.
on that. I've been doing this for over 30 years, and it is a daily process. You never reach a threshold by which you know everything. And that goes with everything in life. But in the case of IT and computer science and data science and cyber, it is a dynamic world we live in. So you have to be prepared to learn on a daily basis. And you also want to be humble enough to take that learning on, because it will humble you. It will eviscerate you. You have to be prepared for everything. And that's where problem solving skills come into play, and mentorship and being willing to fail. You have to recognize that you have limitations as a human being. And so that's where the humility comes in. But you have to be willing to learn and enjoy it and have a passion for making a difference in the world.
And it's okay to maintain the learning attitude and just to express, I don't know this yet. So let me address this question to Wayne. Wayne, how did you learn? How did you choose what to learn? How did you choose the concentration?
Oh, so it's honestly, it's been a long road for me. This is something that I've been wanting to do, get into penetration testing now for over 10 years. And I feel like I'm finally at the point now where things are starting to click that wouldn't click before. There's a whole groundwork of knowledge that I need to learn before even trying to get in and taking an approach to it. You have to really understand the fundamentals. You have to understand networking inside and out. There's a lot of different factors to it.
And let's address what fundamentals are. Networking, right?
Yes.
So here is Jack and Bryant who are like teaching that course for us, and Google IT support course is really recommended. This is a good start. And then you will dive deep into cybersecurity specialty, right?
Yes. It's 100%.
Okay.
It's something that I feel like for a lot of people in the field, what they struggle with is imposter syndrome. There's a lot of people out there that just feel that they don't have enough knowledge, they don't know enough, and that's what keeps them out. But what this field needs is more professionals entering this space, because there's not enough people in it. And the job openings, I'm sure you'll see in the next 5 to 10 years, there's going to be a higher and higher demand, because this field really needs it. And that's just my opinion on it, honestly. But
I totally agree. Okay. So, any more questions? Yes, it's intimidating. I know. Sasha, I read the comment that you are into the computers world. So what's your specialty? What you're up to? Do you want to address it?
Hey, yeah, so I'm doing desktop support. I'm working at a school, but I'm trying to get like Wayne, trying to get into cybersecurity. So right now I'm studying for my Security Plus. I know some stuff, like I know like a little bit of Kali Linux, and I was able to see what he was just sort of the frameworks he was working in as far as like what ports were open and things like that. But I do want to deepen my knowledge. So I'm very green in it. I've taken the Security Plus before, but I failed it because I didn't have the, like you said, the basis of networking. You have to really know networking if you want to go into security, because you have to know basically how everything is connected. So that's like one of my main points of like trying to go towards that journey. So right now I'm Security Plus, and then I definitely want to get into like pen testing, ethical hacking down the line.
Absolutely. Anyone else want to step up? Sabrine, I saw some comments from Sabrine. And Dance, do you have any experience to share?
Hey, no experience, just more along to listen. I do know, I'm aware of Kali Linux. I took a class over this summer that talked about some cybersecurity stuff and
Mhm.
about some of the, I can't remember the name of the corporation, Mitra, is that how you say it? That and another website where you can see like the types of attacks that are happening in real time and where they're happening and everything. But I don't have any real experience in it. I'm just interested in it and love following it. So hopefully one day I can make it profitable.
I believe Dr. Cynthia addressed this at the beginning, right?
Yes, absolutely. There's many ways to learn the knowledge. There's many tools out there. The goal is understanding the principles, right? And once you understand the principles, really, there's so many tools out there. There's Metasploit. You could start with Wireshark, something very simple that you can download and learn how,
Let's have all these links where to start in the chat, okay?
Yeah, Metasploit is going to be very expensive, but an Nmap, but Wireshark is a free tool. Let me get the link for you. Excuse me, I'm holding my doggy because it is thundering and he gets very scared.
And I see Jack raise hand, so feel free to share your piece of wisdom. Jack, I believe you're dealing with the cybersecurity at your daily routine as IT expert, as IT specialist.
Yeah,
IT support
I don't have any certifications.
in
Everything I
cybersecurity.
learned,
Mhm.
everything I learned through working with developers, engineers. And I would have to say some of the most eye-opening experiences I've had is working with developers as an engineer and finding out how little they know about security and how to code their applications to be secure, and pointing out to them where their code is vulnerable. Because some developers have a mindset of, can it be done versus should it be done?
That's a
And the
good
interesting
point.
thing is how little they know about the OS or the browser that they may be developing under, and explaining all those things. So for anybody on this call that feels that, oh, I don't know as much as this person or that person, I think, it doesn't matter how many years of experience you have. It's always going to be a challenge, and you should always humble yourself and be accepting of anybody that's willing to help you out. They're not looking to embarrass you. They're not looking to they're not looking to sabotage what you're doing. Everybody's on the same team when you work in a company or in the industry for that matter. So everybody's just trying to help one another.
One of the
That's
things
it.
you realize is that this is a constantly dynamically evolving media. And whatever you learn today will be outdated tomorrow. It is constantly evolving. And so the one question, I think it was Ivan that asked it before, like, how do you learn all of this stuff? You have to learn it on a daily basis by keeping up with everything and it's basically you're tearing your hair out by the end of the day. That's why I have mine so short. But essentially, cybersecurity is so evolving so dynamically that it is extremely difficult to, you lapse a day, you've lost a lot of information. You must keep up. It's a difficult field.
That's why having a growth mindset is so important. Because if you have a fixed mindset, you're not opening yourself up to new information, and you have to be willing to test, your knowledge, and also work, like Jack said, work together with a team, and work on a group strength by sharing information, sharing knowledge, share what you learn, and don't try to do it all yourself, because it really takes a team and a very unified team to accomplish the goal.
There are so many questions, and thank you everyone for answering those questions. Thank you, Jack, for stepping up for Mirnell question. And I see more knowledge is shared in the chat. Okay, more links and more tools. Ay. So anyone would like to get the step up and just to give the first 3 steps if you're willing to learn it? Where you would start? Maybe Dr. Cynthia, or it's too much?
Absolutely. You're asking where would someone start?
Yes.
For cybersecurity?
Step 1, step 2, step 3, or what's prerequisite?
Well, the prerequisite for cybersecurity is really either no IT background, or you would have to take on a background in computer science first. You have to understand hardware and software basics, and then you could move into cybersecurity. Once you learn the skills related to cybersecurity, you could then dovetail or intersect that with other things like cybersecurity and data science, right? So let's say you really like data science. Well, you could combine that with cyber, or you could combine a networking background with cyber. So it's really the intersection of one area of computer science or data science and cyber that gets the job done, and specializing.
Thank you, Dr. Cynthia.
Mhm.
Once again, the reminder is to use chat as much as possible, and make sure just to have your name there, introducing yourself and thanking experts. Okay.
One piece of advice I have, again, from somebody who's never had a formal course in any of this. It's almost like if you have if you walk into a room that's a mess and you say, well, where do I begin? Well, you begin with picking up the first object to clear out of your path. So if you're looking to get into IT in general and you focus on the courses that are being taught here, and it's enough to get you a job, the first thing you should do is get, in my opinion, is that's the first step, is learning the systems in the place that you work, in addition to trying to get certified in whatever it is, hacker certification, anything like that. Because if there's obviously going to be what's popular and what makes the most money, but if you work for a particular company and they're using a piece of technology, or they have a certain OS platform, that's where you start. That's where you become proficient. And then once you prove yourself there, then you move on to the next and the next and the next.
Thank you. It was really good. Okay. I have an interesting slide. I don't know if Dr. Cynthia, Judith, you're just applauding to Jack. Thank you. Dr. Cynthia,
It was great, very informative.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Jack.
Yes, absolutely. We have a very conceptual slide deck from one of our conferences, and I'm just wondering if Dr. Cynthia would like to comment it. So I'm going to share the screen. Is it okay?
Yeah, go ahead, share the screen, and I definitely will comment on it. It's a good value resource, yes.
Yes. So this slide deck. Okay, this talk was given at the HP Tech Festival.
Mhm,
So make
mhm.
sure to attend our festivals, even if they are not right now scheduled. So something will be coming up again and again. And we have conferences, we have hackathons, we have speakers. So this talk actually was given at the conference. And
Mhm.
you see how conceptual it is. Where trust does begin.
Yep. And this goes to where I spoke about, if you see something, say something. So you want to trust, what you see, what you're directly observing. You want to trust, the people around you, those people that you work with and or live with. You want to think about, who do I trust, and why do I trust it? And it's usually your perception, right? So, you want to be able to trust that certain hardware is going to not be compromised, right? But you need to understand the nature of that hardware as well, right? So, you can't protect something if you don't know how it works. And that's where circuits and processors and motherboards and things of that nature, having background in that is very important. Also understanding where we came from when it comes to hardware and where we are now. So there's a lot of things that are historically, the computers were always vulnerable, right? We just didn't care about it as much because we didn't share. It's the internet that really, and the networked environment that really took things to another level, right? So having a trust in all of those different things, but also thinking of the cloud, right? So now when we start, someone had to ask before about data, that I share with the healthcare provider. Well, what if that healthcare provider provides data, or puts that data in the cloud? Well, who is our service provider, and what is the nature of our service agreement? Our SLA, service level agreement. And if we're contracting as a provider, who are we contracting with? So really trust is ubiquitous. And also the software. We all know software has to be updated regularly. And a lot of times a patch will come out or multiple patches will come out, will have impact on other softwares. And that's because of the nature of how those softwares are written, but also their interoperability and their integration aspects of software. So that's really important in as well.
So you see,
So
it's all like layers.
very much layered, and you can see computer science is in this, networking is in this, data science is in this, computer science is in this, hardware, software, the whole thing. And again, understanding that it is layers that are dependent on. So you can see here, hardware and firmware is at the bottom. Well, if that breaks, then everything above it will be compromised, right? And if the nefarious actor's goal is to break the hardware where everything starts, well, naturally, they're going to take out entire systems, perhaps entire networks. So seeing the connectivity between and the levels of dependencies is really important. So things, we know that there are, frameworks out there that talk about the level of vulnerabilities that are known to exist with these. So, WordPress is a popular example, PHP scripting, and so on and so forth. So that's where having, NIST is another framework. There's a cybersecurity framework, a risk
Yeah.
management framework.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at NIST and all of the resources they provide, again, in the doctoral level, all the way down to the bachelor's level and even associate's level, we speak about NIST and all the different frameworks. Node and JS, basically, any IDE and or server, client server environment is known to have vulnerabilities. It doesn't matter how good the company is, right? Vulnerabilities exist because of the nature of what we are attempting to put out there. And so, we have to recognize there's vulnerabilities in everything. I had someone say to me one time, well, Macs are not vulnerable. And I said, really? Okay, so they don't connect to networks. They don't go online. Really? So these are things to think about. If data transfers from point A to point B, it's vulnerable. If it's a data-driven device, it's vulnerable. So of course, languages, Python. Now, one of the tools I was going to mention earlier, and I know Jack's familiar with this. Jack knows what I'm going to talk about, right, Jack? What Splunk is Jack's latest fun tool to work with, right, Jack? And Splunk is used in a very popular way on the network, but also you can use it with data science and tools as well, as far as determining that there's problems. Operating systems are also known to have vulnerabilities, right? This is why we're constantly doing, isn't Splunk cool, right? We're constantly doing updates to operating systems, Docker and all the different containers for containerization of information, whether it's virtual environments or services or what have you. Virtualization is very popular. Well, it's still vulnerable because of the nature.
Next
Yep.
layer of
Layer
abstraction.
upon layer, right? Nobody is exempt from right? So the goal is to reduce risk, and it's very important to recognize that risk will never be 100% mitigated. There's always going to be some level of vulnerability and risk, but we want to focus on the triad, the CIA triad, which is confidentiality, integrity, and availability, right? So you want to have data encrypted both at rest and in flight when it's going across the network. You want integrity, you want non-repudiation, you want to make sure that things are have integrity, and also that the data is available and the systems are up and hopefully experiencing the 5 nines that we always talk about, because the goal is to eliminate downtime, right, to the extent possible. But keep in mind, there's always going to be cases where vulnerabilities happen. I've heard of airline systems getting, the air traffic control experiencing issues. These could be big entities and they're superbly vulnerable. So we have to recognize that having qualified workforce in cyber is very important. So that's something that if you're seeking to get those skills, definitely worth your while.
So those are authentication and authorization mechanism we've been talking before, but also identity
and auditing. Absolutely.
And auditing.
Yep. So auditing is making sure that a third party provider does an audit and make sure that the key areas that NIST talks about are hardened and that you've addressed all of those things. And the nature of who you are as an organization, for example, a finance organization is going to be held to higher or different standards, right? Because they're in the banking industry, right? And there's actually frameworks out there for finance that are different from others. And without overwhelming folks, these are all things that if you took a cyber class, you would learn, and you would be able to understand. If you work in finance, these are the tools that you would want to grasp. So the key and the most important thing is know your assets. What data and what hardware is precious? How have you classified that data? All data has to be classified as either public, restricted, customer confidential, or internal only. And then who owns the data? Who is responsible for that data and who interfaces with that data? Very important. How long do we keep data and what controls do we have in place to make sure that the chain of custody is solid and we don't experience a break in that chain? You can see there's a linearity to it, but there's also a curvilinearity to it. All right. So that's
as we
very
said, systems and networks, that's where you begin.
Absolutely.
That's why IT support is so valuable.
Very valuable. And also communicating with people, right? Because people get very nervous when they feel that they have been breached. So understanding the architecture, understanding the threat profile, what assets are required in the process of a use case. So a use case for a given application is important. And this way you can connect the dots, as it were. Where are the dependencies and things? And know your obligations as an organization. Is there a certain service level that you have to meet? Is there a legal and compliance requirement, privacy requirement? For example, someone mentioned healthcare earlier. Healthcare has to, adhere to HIPAA, and any breach that happens, any break in privacy has to be reported. In order to maintain compliance, and legal may have to get involved, and they may have to turn off their services for a while until they can assure that their obligations are being met and people's data and their privacy are upheld. So that's also very important.
That's why it's important to read user agreement.
Yes. So this is a very important slide. Yes. If you can get the CISSP certification, you're golden. It's a very hard certification to get. It is very comprehensive, but you can also start with like the Security Plus, which is, CompTIA, TIA certification and work your way up to the CISSP.
Thank you,
Yep.
Cynthia. I guess it's good enough. I stopped sharing.
Yeah.
So I believe this is something, if you want to learn more about this and have a philosophical talk about this,
Yeah.
or having use cases going
Absolutely.
for this. And thank you, Wayne, for providing this use case. It's very specific use case vulnerability. Thank you for hacking Hudson Valley Can Code. Yeah, we know WordPress is very vulnerable. It's very much so. Okay. Sounds like you got satisfied, like, oh, overwhelming enough. How's it going? Any questions? Shall I stop recording? No more valuable information, and then you can just network? Or if you're going to ask any specific questions, feel free to jump in, asking questions. Dr. Cynthia, Wayne, Jack, Brian, please review all questions. Please review the chat. I see a lot of valuable information out there. If you're done too much, just say thank you in the chat. This way we know you were here and you're free to go.
I just want to say thank you to everyone that came to the meetup tonight. I hope we've given you at least some starter information to pique your interest and get you thinking about possibilities. So it was an honor to be with you folks today.
No hands? Okay, I'm stopping recording.
When I took the Google IT security course, I noticed that, well, I switched ISPs or internet service providers after, but before the previous ISP, the password was really bad. It was basically numbers. Anyone can, well, there's a lot of homes, a lot of networks that could have that same network with that ISP in particular. Anyone can make a brute force attack, which is a brute force attack is basically, putting in the password as many times as they can, and they can do that through with some serious programming. They can, one person can take long, so that's why they have to rely on the computer. So that's why I felt really uncomfortable with the ISP. Well, there's more reasons, but that's just one red flag that I've realized after switching. So that's something to keep in mind. Also, observations within your home is kind of good to practice, especially if you want to learn IT security, mainly through your networks. I've pointed out in the chat before about hardware. If it gets to your computer, you can try and I'm trying to think of a good word, but removing the virus. Otherwise, it would otherwise some computer part would be infected. So it's good to learn some hardware at least. It's really fun anyways. So yeah, that's what I wanted to share.
Thank you very much. So I see a lot of valuable information which you probably would like to get access to after the meetup, right? First of all, you can save a chat. Surprise! Everyone knows how to do that?
Yes.
Okay, this is good. Another way to save all of this, we will be saving chat and saving recording or sharing recording. So here is our Slack channel in the chat. Feel free to jump in, and this is your way how to follow up. Okay. So we will have a lot of random opportunity, or if we want to create cybersecurity channel, sub-channel, if there will be a lot of interest and such. So this is definitely the opportunity. Okay. Thank you, Chito, if I'm saying your name right. Okay. And I see Michelle is joining right now. So it's really worth to have the Slack because you can chat if you don't know what's going on or you need help. It's not only me answering all your questions, but the community. So the nice thing about community is you're welcome to use it. Okay, saying that,